Hello and welcome to the McHenry High School Senior Supports and Next Steps presentation. This one is aimed primarily at parents and guardians. If you are watching this live, as in literally Thursday morning, August 27th at 11:31 a.m. right now, you can ask us live questions right there in YouTube. In the comments section right below your screen, you can actually just type questions in. We can see those and we can respond to you in real time. If you are watching the recorded version of this live stream, we are so glad that you are engaging and taking part, keeping yourself up to date on what your student is experiencing. As a reminder to our parents and guardians, it's not just your senior who is on this journey. It is you as well. It is okay for you to ask questions, for you to have doubts, and for you to feel the feelings that are associated with your child getting ready to take their next step beyond a K through 12 educational setting. So again, we're here just as much for you as we are for your students. My name is Curtis Menke. I am the college and career counselor here at McHenry High School. I'm going to pass things over to Miss Bacigalupo to introduce herself. Go ahead, Miss Bacigalupo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Bacigalupo. I have seniors, last names A through LE on my caseload.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carla Flores. I am the school counselor that works with all seniors that have last names LF through Z. And I would like to pass it over to our MCC guest.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Peyton Spanbauer. I'm a new student enrollment coach here at Montgomery County College. Basically, my job is just to help you and your student navigate all those next steps and hopefully take the overwhelm out of it.
Yes, which is a big part of this whole process, is trying to not let the overwhelmingness of this process and experience get in the way of actions. As we've told, as all of your seniors have heard from us at some point in the last week and a half, doubt is still okay. But the big challenge of this process is not letting doubt get in the way of action, which is kind of backwards as to how we normally behave as human beings. So I'm going to pause just for a quick second. I am presenting first in our order here. So I'm going to remove my colleagues from the screen here. There we are. And as we move along in the presentation, before we get going here, again, as you can see, I'll just mention this one more time. Again, for those of you watching this live in real time, and we do have several people watching this with us right now, you can ask us live questions right there in YouTube. Simply type your question into the comment box there. Or if you just want to say hi or say, hey, Mr. Menke, you're doing a great job. A little affirmation goes a long way. So again, as we tell your seniors, all careers have dignity. We are not here to tell your students what we think they should do with their lives. And again, it is okay to not know, but it is time to act. So finding something as far as what is appropriate and what they might be passionate about as far as what that next step is, that is the goal for the next several months here, with the stated goal that we give to all of your students, in that with that goal being get trained or educated in something when you are done here at McHenry High School. This is a big topic, folks. It's a big topic for you. It's a big topic for your students. We like to keep this big, scary, overwhelming topic as simple as we can by boiling down into one word how we work with your students on this topic along the way. And the senior year word is act, is an action, time to act on those plans and ideas and explorations that have come to this point. This slide right here, I include in every presentation that your students see from me, to the point that they roll their eyes by the time we get to senior year, which I love because it means that they remember it. This slide right here kind of captures that goal I mentioned a moment ago. Get trained or educated in something when you're done at McHenry High School. And if that something falls into one of these four very broad categories, you've met that goal. Just giving our parents and guardians a little bit of kind of fun with numbers here. Last year's graduating class, 5% of the class of 2026 went into military service. 35% matriculated to a 4-year college, working on a bachelor's degree away from home right away. 26% told us that they are starting at a community college. They are going to do 4 years, but they're going to start there and transfer into the bachelor's degree, with the vast majority of that 26% being at our in-district community college, MCC. Technical trades in the top right, I got a couple sets of numbers there. 23% of last year's seniors stated that they're going to go the community college route. Again, most of those being at MCC for non-transfer pathways, non-bachelor's degree pathways, certificates, shorter-term associate's degree programs, MCC's technical trades options, and they've got a bunch, folks. And we're going to show you what those are in a little bit. Another 4% are doing some kind of apprenticeship program, most of those associated with your classic trades-based pathways. And 3% are going to a private technical or trade school, UTI, Wyotech, Northern Ohio, cosmetology schools. They all fall into that category. All right, moving along here. This slide right here just kind of gives a reminder. Hopefully this isn't something that we have to worry about at this point, but just kind of gives a reminder as to what graduation requirements are left. Most students entering senior year still have a full credit of English left, a full credit of PE, 1 semester of government, 1 semester of consumer ed, and then usually at least a couple of elective credits. You know, as long as your student's been taking care of business, Ms. Bacigalupo and Ms. Flores have been making sure that they're checking the right boxes and are on their way to a high school diploma. Resources. So these are the main resources that we use with your students, with the first one being the counseling team ourselves. Although parents and guardians do not have Schoology access, you do know that Schoology is the place that your students spend most of their academic time, at least when they're doing online work. And so to kind of meet your students where they're at, we as a counseling team have a Schoology course that students can pull up at any time on their devices. We keep the resources in there minimal because we don't want to overwhelm students with too many things. So these are the resources that are in there. Students can schedule meetings with us, any of the 3 of us there. School Links and the College and Career Guide are the main 2 online resources. And then this is also where our students can see what college reps and military recruiters are coming, as well as our local scholarship list. Every Monday morning, students get an email from me that just kind of summarizes some how-tos, some opportunities coming up. The senior version of this weekly email is a little longer than the one they've gotten in the past because there are more how-tos and actions that are taken senior year. So we advise your students, give us 30, 45 seconds every Monday morning. Just kind of glance at it, look at the headings, look at who's coming in, because there are 3 of us and there are 515 seniors. And so this is an easy, simple way for us to get simple informations, how-tos out to your seniors, because we can't tap every one of them on the shoulder every Monday morning and say, hey, this scholarship is open, or here's how you fill out a college application. A little bit more about the resources. School Links is our main, using the fancy term, post-secondary readiness platform. In other words, kind of college career prep. It's got all the things you expect a program like this to have. It's got a college search. It's got career search, all sorts of information about things. Senior year, though, this is also where students take actions to support their college applications. This is where any school-based document is funneled and sent to colleges or institutions that students are looking at. Transcripts, letters of recommendation, all go through here. We'll go into that a little bit more a little later on as far as how. But again, School Links is a tool that your students will be using this year. College and Career Guide, this is your how-to guide. How do I find apprenticeships? How do I fill out the FAFSA? How do I fill out college applications? All that is right here. I did put a little blue box around one in particular that a lot of students will be clicking right now, and that is literally how to apply to four-year colleges. Again, this is an example of, just some of the schools and, the reps and events that are coming up at McHenry High School. This list is accessible to students in Schoology, and it's also on the district website for parents and guardians to see. Speaking of the district websites, because parents and guardians don't have Schoology access, you can't see that course I just showed you that your students see. We do have a parallel web page on our district website where you can see all those resources and find and access all those resources I just mentioned. I will say that the page is several clicks into the website. So to keep it simple for you, from the district homepage, click search. And then if you type in college and career, it's the first page that pops up. And that's where you'll find the college and career guide. That's where you'll find a link to MCC. That's where you'll find the FAFSA and all the main things that our families will be working with this year. A couple upcoming things. We are going to touch on financial aid and scholarships a little bit during this presentation, but of all the things that you and your seniors will be doing this year, paying for the next step is the hairiest one. It has more steps, it has more stress, it has more details. So we are going to have a standalone paying for college presentation, financial aid and scholarships presentation towards the end of September. We'll have an in-person version the evening of the 23rd at 5:30 up in the Warrior Room for those of you that prefer in-person. And for those whose preference or needs are virtual, the next day, kind of like this session, we will have a live stream as well. So you can tune in live or again, watch the recorded version of the live stream like some of you are doing right now. On October 1st, MCC hosts a big four-year college fair. Well over 100 schools will be there. So whether it be finding some other schools to add to application lists or maybe just touching base with reps, that's an awesome opportunity 15 minutes away from the upper campus. In the middle of October, we host our annual Manufacturing Trades and Industry Expo for seniors who are considering trades options, non-bachelor's degree options. We have local industry partners there, union reps there, great opportunity. A couple of things towards the end of October for our students looking at military options. We always host an ASVAB session every semester here. And then we'll also have an evening event where we bring in several of the area recruiters and give seniors, or well, honestly, all students as well as parents and guardians a chance to engage and ask questions. And then one that is really important for me is early in November, we'll also host a live stream where we go into more detail about how to access disability services in college. I don't have an exact number, but I'm guesstimating that somewhere around probably about 40% of McHenry High School students have an IEP or a 504 or a health plan. And we want to make sure that those students are supported and the families are supported, and you know how to act on things, how to access things, what the differences look like in accommodation plans between high school and college. That one is important to me. It's important to many of you as well. So we'll have a live stream where we take the deep dive on that. This one won't apply to too many people, but it's a really important one for those that it does. If your senior is considering participating in Division I or II athletic programs in college, these would be the ones that are eligible for athletic scholarships. It is really important for your student to touch base with their counselor, Ms. Bacigalupo or Ms. Flores. There's some pretty strict guidelines that go into this process, and we want to make sure that your student is supported with this. If you have questions on that topic, reach out to them. When you can, to make sure that your student is all set up and all the barriers are down for them to access those athletic programs. A couple of slides on each of the main pathways, and in a couple of slides here, I'm going to turn things over to Ms. Bacigalupo to go further into four-year college applications. But again, we want to make sure we honor all the other pathways. Military, my biggest tip for students who are thinking about the military, well, I'll give two tips. One is make sure you connect with the recruiter of the branches you're considering. We can help you. Again, if you reach out to us, we can tell you who that person is if you don't know. And then again, prep for and take the ASVAB. We'll offer an ASVAB session here again in late October. That can also be arranged directly through the recruiters as well. So questions about military, send them our way, and just know that you're supported if you're considering this option. Apprenticeships, again, 4% of last year's seniors did apprenticeship programs. We take a lot of pride in making sure that students who are considering non-four-year college pathways are supported. I grew up in a small town. Lots of my family, works in similar industries like this. We want to make sure you're supported. The two main apprenticeship providers that our students tend to look for, one of them is the obvious one, and that's through trades-based labor unions. However, MCC also is an apprenticeship host. They partner with a dozen different manufacturers in McHenry County. So there are other ways besides classic trades options to do apprenticeship programs for those who are looking at, like, I just want to do trades, don't want to do like anything involving the word college. We get it. We've got you supported here as well. Apprenticeships, again, are typically 5-year commitments, but great training, great outcomes there. Then my last slide before I turn things over to Ms. Bacigalupo. There's a lot going on this slide right here. Stealing a little bit of Peyton's thunder for later on in the presentation. I just wanted to demonstrate how many technical and trades-based options MCC offers. And honestly, this is about 80% of them. There's some others that aren't listed here as well. But if your student wants to go into trades-based options and they don't want to do an apprenticeship, MCC's got welding. They got machining. They got autos. They got HVAC. They got construction management. They've got a number of shorter-term healthcare options. They got early childhood ed. They got business, marketing, video production, software app. Culinary, they got a great culinary program. They just built a new kitchen there. Fire science, we had at least a dozen, might have been closer to 15 seniors from last year's class that all went to MCC for fire science. I think we could probably fill an entire firehouse with last year's seniors who went to MCC for fire science and or EMT services. Great program over there. They're actually building some new facilities for the fire program, which is awesome as well. Miss Bacigalupo, I'm going to pull you up on stage. Hello again.
Hello.
Yes, she's going to take you a step further as far as college, four-year college applications. Miss Bacigalupo.
All right, we're really going to talk about the four-year college application process because this is the one out of all of our students who are taking the next step after high school that has the most pressing timeline right now. This is the busiest time. So some things to consider as your student is hopefully finishing up their list of colleges they're applying to is looking at factors that best fit your student and sorting those factors into wants and needs. So that's like looking at private schools or public schools, a school in a city or a traditional college campus in a suburb, looking at the different sports offered at that school. The really nice thing about our School Links program is that students can filter schools based on what they're looking for. So if you have a student who knows, I want to stay in the Midwest, I want to study accounting, and I want to be on the golf team, they can put those filters in and they'll get a list of all of the schools that match based on those factors. If your student is still not sure what is a good fit for them, I highly, highly recommend going and visiting some schools this semester. We're actually going to be having a field trip September 15th to Carroll University. So if they're wanting to look at kind of a smaller private school in the Midwest, that's a really great opportunity for them. The field trip is first come, first serve. So have them keep an eye on their email to go on that field trip. We also do have a couple days the next months where seniors are not in attendance because of maybe ACT testing. And those are also really great days to take advantage of campus tours because the college students will be on campus because it's a weekday and it won't count against their attendance for the high school because they don't have to come that day. The number to apply to, we recommend between 4 and 8. I've had students in the past who applied to 12, 13 schools, but it does get pretty expensive and time consuming, and it can get a little bit difficult to narrow down their list once they found out what schools they got into. So between 4 and 8 is great. And within that range, you want to have some target schools and some likely schools. So target where maybe your student is, their GPA is right in the average, ACT is right in the average, it's a good chance they'll get in. And then likely is kind of a safety school where your student is above the average. They're very likely to get in. A really good safety school to have is MCC. Not only is your student going to get in as long as they graduate high school, it's also a great financially feasible option. You never know what could happen with your family between now and in the fall of next year when your student goes to school. So having MCC on your list is really great. Of course, if there's a reach school, your student's looking at a more selective school, we would never tell a student to not apply to a school if they love the campus, they love the program, but maybe, their GPA is a little bit short, but they want to apply, give it their best shot. Of course, do that. Just make sure you have schools in each of those categories. It's also really great to see an Illinois public school on a student's list, and there's several reasons for that. One being that there is a MAP grant that you have to complete the FAFSA to be eligible for. It's based on family income, so lower income, the more likely chance you have of getting a MAP grant. And that MAP grant can go up to $8,400, and potentially your student could get that MAP grant every single year they're in college if the family income is pretty stable. That only counts for Illinois public schools. So if your student's going to a private school, they won't be able to use that MAP grant, but at the Illinois public school, they can. And if you multiply that number times 4, that's $33,600. That is a huge dent in tuition. Another reason is that in Illinois, all public schools have to give students credit for AP scores 3 and above. Private schools, there's some schools that require a 4. There's some schools that require a 5, the more selective schools. And sometimes private schools will give your student credit, but maybe not directly in the subject that they took the test in. It can get a little bit wonky, but Illinois public schools 3 or above, they get that credit. There's also some free tuition programs in Illinois. Again, these are based on income, and you could see the list of schools in that income threshold over there with hyperlinks to learn more about them. If your family maybe isn't quite in that range, but close to it, you could also reach out to their Office of Financial Aid to see if they have a similar program for you. But these are just really great opportunities that we want to make sure students and parents are aware of. When to apply. So we're coming up to it. September through November is when most four-year college applications are completed, with emphasis really in the September-October timeframe. This is because there are a lot of early action deadlines. Early action is your student applies sooner. They hear back sooner, potentially, if they get into that school. They have almost a 10% better chance of getting in, and it shows they're very interested in that school. There are early decision deadlines too. The difference is early action is apply early, hear back early. Early decision is a binding agreement. So if your student is looking at any school that has an early decision deadline, please have them come talk to us. But a popular deadline is November 1st for both of those. There are regular deadlines that are later, but we encourage students to apply sooner because even though your school might have a January deadline, there might be specific dates for programs like nursing is a really competitive program that has an earlier date, or scholarships that require you to apply earlier to be considered for those scholarships. So really, we just found out our students have a 3-day weekend for Halloween, which is great. It would be a good kind of benchmark for your student to be wrapping up their applications by Halloween in case they have one of those November 1st deadlines. There's different types of applications. So every school has a institutional specific application. That is when you go to MCC's website, you see the, I think it's yellow Apply Now button that you click and you apply through MCC's portal. There's also something called the Common Application. This is kind of a newer application, but a lot of schools are taking it, which I'll talk a little bit more about. So the Common Application, it is a longer application because it requires a lot of information. Students have to self-report their grades. They have to fill out a lot of different prompts. Because over 1,100 schools take the application, all the specific schools need certain information. So the Common App wants to make sure it checks every box for every school. But the great thing is, if your student is applying to, let's say, 6 schools, and they all take Common App, it is actually beneficial for them to sit down and take the 45 minutes to fill out the Common App, then fill out 6 different institution-specific applications, which could take 20, 30, 40 minutes in themselves. So it could be a time saver. How to apply. There's also fees that range for different applications. So some are free. For example, MCC, their application, we have a fee waiver code for. It's McHenry HS, all lowercase. Peyton's going to go over all of that. Sometimes if students attend a college reps visit here at school, they'll give them a fee code, but they do range from being free to being $100. We say this with sensitivity. If your family is on our free or reduced lunch list, or if there's been some financial constraints this year, please reach out to their student school counselor because we can also provide a fee waiver code from us for them to put in their Common App or their applications to waive those fees. Students request their transcripts in school links. We've been in Ames, we've been in English classes. Mr. Mankey is about to wrap up all of his English class presentations where we show students how to do this. So if your student says they don't know how and they give you a blank look, go check out the college and career guide Mr. Mankey talked about. There's a video as well as pictures on how they can request their transcript. But basically, all students request their own transcript. We go in on our end and fulfill that transcript and send it to the college. The good news since COVID happened is a lot of schools are test optional, especially in the Midwest, which is good for our students who are not the best test takers. Sometimes we have students who have really great GPAs, but they have test anxiety and their test scores don't really reflect the time and effort they put into their education. So this is great. Just be aware there are some schools in the Midwest who are starting to require scores. So some examples are Purdue and The Ohio State University are now requiring them. So just make sure your student is mindful when they're applying if it's required or not. The college application essay has been such a popular topic for students this year. We can tell they have a lot of stress and anxiety about it, which is okay, right? We know they want to write a really good essay and they want to stand out and be competitive, which is great. We want that for our students. So we would just encourage them to make sure to be authentic. There seems to be this notion that students have to kind of trauma dump, write about the worst thing that ever happened in their life in this college essay to stand out. And that's not necessarily true. I mean, Flores, Mankey, and I have seen wonderful essays where the student's prompt was not about that. It was about, for example, I have a student who wrote about his lucky pencil, and he was able to speak to his passion for academics, his involvement in school. He just wove it in such a natural way, and it was really authentic, and you could hear his voice in the essay. And that's what college reps are looking for. They read hundreds of essays, and they just want to get to know this student and really hear their voice. Please refrain from using AI. It's good to check grammar and things like that, but really should not be used for content, because those college reps, they've read so many essays, they could pick AI out, I'm sure, faster than our English teachers could. So if your student needs support in that, please have them come see their English teacher, their counselor, Mr. Mankey. A lot of classes actually have begun writing college essays. So the college and career writing class, College Comp 151, they should already be getting a jump start on this, but they have resources here if they need help. Letters of recommendation. So some schools require them, some schools don't. Students can go onto school links and they'll see whether that school requires it or not. If a school does not require a letter of recommendation, do not send it. Usually there won't even be an option, but don't let your student mail a letter of rec and go rogue. It says to the college that your student's not following the directions, so don't do that. For schools that do require them, we recommend that your teacher talk to that potential letter writer at least 2 weeks before the letter is due. We have a lot of teachers and counselors ourselves. We get really busy, so we want to make sure we have time to write a good letter. I recommend they have that conversation in person with the teacher, then follow up with a list of their involvement inside, outside of school, resume, brag sheet, whatever. I'm even telling kids, just give me bullet points of what you do here at school and out of school, so that we can just write really good holistic letters that speaks to not only the student's academic abilities, but their character as well. If your student has a 504 plan or IEP, I definitely recommend attending that presentation that Mr. Mankey was talking about. That's really important too. But just know that wherever they take their next step, they still can receive accommodations. One really important task senior year is to reach out to the case manager of your student's plan to get a copy of it, because if you have a copy of that plan that they have in high school, it's really easy to go to that Office of Disability Services, bring in that paperwork. They'll sit down with you and they'll tell you what the plan looks like at the college level. It's going to look a little bit different, okay? Especially because public universities are required to provide accommodations. Private schools can look a little bit different, but they'll work with you. And it's difficult to start that process when you don't have any kind of documentation. And I also recommend scheduling that meeting with the Office of Disabilities before your student starts classes. And parents, get ready. Something new about college is you're going to be kind of taking a back seat, and the college staff are going to want to work with your student about their plan, because at that point, they really are taking ownership of their own plan. So I know students I have on my caseload, I'm telling them to practice this year being your own advocate, because in college, you're kind of on your own, which can be scary, but it's important for students to know that they have those plans and that there's support in place for them. All right, I'm going to pass things over to our financial aid expert, Mrs. Flores.
Thank you, Ms. Pachigalupo. So we're going to talk a little bit about financial aid and the FAFSA before we wrap up our counselor portion and move over to some MCC specific info. Now, your students have all been exposed to the same financial aid and FAFSA slides in AIM and English throughout the past week and a half. But of course, we know that the cost of college, financial aid, these are important conversations that are happening at home with you, parents and guardians. So we encourage you to join us on our September 23rd event, or join the live stream the next day on the 24th for more detailed information here. But again, because this is a very important factor that drives most of the decision making for what their next step is, we do want to briefly talk about it today as well. There are two main types of financial aid that a student would get from the US Department of Education. That first one listed, grants. This works similar to a scholarship in the sense that it's free money. It helps them afford the cost of college. They don't owe the money. It's quite literally a gift, the same way a scholarship is. Grants from the federal and state government are need-based, based on financial need. So completing the FAFSA and providing financial information helps determine which students are eligible for any of the federal or state government's need-based grants. The second type of financial aid listed is loans. So all students that complete the FAFSA will be considered for student loans. And students that we've explained that this is money borrowed. They take out the money initially. They can select how much of the loans offered to them they would like to take out. And then this is money that they pay back when they are finished with school. So applying and completing the FAFSA is the one application that considers students for both grants, loans, as well as work study. And there's multiple sources of financial aid. So even beyond the government, colleges will also use the FAFSA to help determine how much scholarship money they get directly from those colleges as well. So really, completing the FAFSA is just the main first step to access as many financial opportunities to lower that cost of college. This year, during their senior year, the 27-28 FAFSA opens on October 1st. It's one application for each school year. So if your student is considering a 4-year bachelor's degree program, this will be the first of 4 years they complete the FAFSA each year. FAFSA is a graduation requirement in the state of Illinois across all public high schools. So that 27-28 FAFSA is also fulfilling their graduation requirement. We can move on to the next slide here. And really, I guess these statistics or these numbers on here from our class of 2026, your students have seen this again in AIM and English class. It shows that just about half of the seniors that completed the FAFSA last school year, just shy of half of them received some form of free grant money. So between federal and state sources of grants, there could be up to $15,000 that students would be eligible for each school year, or any amount in between that and the maximum amount. So just shy of half of them received some form of that free grant money. And again, I have talked to students about how colleges can often use FAFSAs on file as an indicator for scholarships they offer and what students could be eligible for too. And this isn't always need-based scholarship opportunities. It could be based on academics. It could be based on involvement, athletics. So we really encourage students and families to complete the FAFSA so that no money is left on the table. We'll go on to the next slide where you can see just a re-emphasis that we're completing the FAFSA for the 27-28 school year. You can take action now if you'd like and complete the account on the website. The FSA ID is what the account is called. So your students will all create an account, and then the parents will also have an account as well. That would be the first step, and then completing the application, that is what will open on October 1st. This is the website for it. So it's fafsa.gov. We emphasize the .gov just to ensure students are completing this application at the right website. I will say the FAFSA, the U.S. Department of Education, has made a lot of updates to the application recently. It's not as lengthy or confusing of a process as I would say it was maybe 5-10 years ago. I've found that a lot of parents and students, once they get started with the application, have found it a lot more manageable or less time consuming than they thought it would be. Sometimes it takes people longer to make their account than it does to actually complete the application. So that's what we hope for all of you as well. But of course, as questions come up when you're working on this application, we highly encourage you to reach out to our team here. I also wanted to add, so the FAFSA opens on October 1st, but the FAFSA is going to be open really throughout your student's entire freshman year of college. The FAFSA directly doesn't necessarily have a specific deadline, but we highly encourage students to still complete the FAFSA early and take action early because some colleges they might be considering may have an earlier deadline for them to complete the FAFSA so that they're considered for priority scholarships. So really, we're communicating to our seniors that if they can get it done in the month of October, go into their 3-day Halloween weekend already having the FAFSA completed. I think they'll feel really good about having this big next step taken care of and know that they've completed it prior to any scholarship deadlines that schools may have for the FAFSA. Now, if any seniors are not eligible to complete the FAFSA and don't have a social security number, there is the alternative application to be considered for state financial aid. This works very similar to the FAFSA, the way it's laid out. It also opens on October 1st, and it also fulfills the state's FAFSA completion requirement. So for any students that this applies to, we're experienced in this and can help them complete their alternative application for state financial aid here in Illinois. Now, for scholarships, I know we've talked a little bit about this, but here's at least a visual to help break things down in a different way. So what we have bolded on the left is institutional scholarships. So what this means and how we've explained it to students is these are scholarships that are coming directly from the colleges they are applying to. So colleges, they can each work a little differently in how they award scholarships and how students can apply for scholarships. So right now, while students are applying to colleges, and even before they know what the final decision is, we encourage them to take action on applying to these institutional scholarships. There may be some that they're automatically considered for with that admissions application, but most colleges have additional scholarships that students could be eligible for based on what they're majoring in or based on different academic, athletic, extracurricular involvements. So we encourage students to spend time on the college websites and get familiar with what each school expects from them and how they can ensure they've applied to all of those institutional scholarships. If there's ever any hesitation, and we have college admissions reps that are experts for each individual college, and we encourage students and can help them direct who that contact is and how to get a hold of them to ensure they're applying to all of their scholarships. Local scholarships, this is another source. We've been really stressing to our seniors that we don't want them to lose steam once they get past the application for admissions phase. We want them to spend time applying to local and national scholarships as well. Especially with local scholarships, our applicant pool is not always as competitive. There could be scholarships that have little to even no applicants. So please help us encourage your seniors to make time for those scholarship applications because they're a lot more likely to earn scholarship money than they may think. It can seem like an intimidating process, but we are here to support them and to encourage them to apply to as many scholarships as possible. And then on the right, almost like I referenced earlier, there's scholarships for various reasons. It could be academic, merit, what their GPA is. But there's also a lot of competitive scholarships for different talents they have, involvements in athletics, extracurriculars. Each scholarship provider can set what their criteria for their scholarships for. Any fellow left-handed people like myself, I've seen scholarships specifically for students that are left-handed. There really is a lot of variety. We just encourage students to take time on applying to these. Now, this slide is kind of an action items, what to do this fall semester now that they're seniors. So it really overviews one, is your student fulfilling all of the graduation requirements? Do they know which colleges they are applying to? Have they met with the reps for those schools? If they're coming into the building or if they're able to schedule any campus visits, we highly encourage them to do that. September and October, these are the months where most of our students are completing their 4-year college applications to ensure they get them done with any November 1st deadlines. Once it's October 1st, we can help them complete the FAFSA. And then I'm going to move over into the next slide just to give you a quick preview of what to expect in the spring. We'll be in kind of a brief lull after their admissions applications are complete. So we encourage students to keep an eye out on emails that they're getting from either FAFSA or colleges directly about any pending items they need to provide. In the spring is when we get a lot of focus on local scholarships that open up and have deadlines. If there's any, additional colleges they add to their list, like we reviewed, there's a lot of regular deadlines in January and February that students could still apply to more schools at this time. Their MTC application, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And really, spring timeframe, so March, April, that's really when students are getting their financial aid offers from schools. And finally, we've talked about how this is a bit of a backwards process. This is where they finally get to see what is the bottom line, how much do these schools cost, which school can I go to after the financial aid has been considered. So we encourage students to make their final decision by May 1st. And that March and April timeframe is really when we can support you and your student with breaking down any financial aid offers or any information that you have, follow-up questions. And then the exciting part, after they get to decide on a school, then they move on into the enrollment process. So after they finally, make a decision, we move on into registering for classes, taking placement tests, if they're going to be living away from home, any housing applications, paying deposits. So we are available obviously to assist students as they're getting, the beginning of, oh, wow, these are all the things I have to do to be ready for my first semester of college. And I believe now I get to pass things over to Peyton from MCC.
Hello, everyone. So thank you again for having me. So I'm here from the admissions side of things at MCC to talk about what your students' next steps look like. So first, a little bit about me. So I am going to be, if you want to hit the next slide, please, your student's main point of contact. So while there are many, many people to help you here at MCC, I will be the main point person for the MCHS seniors this fall. So I have been through the MCC process myself. I was a student who transferred out and finished up a 4-year degree. And so for me, being first gen, I'm really passionate about helping other families navigate this process and not feel like guinea pigs going through it, especially if this is your first student to be navigating this process. So again, my role, I'm just here to help you explore your options and provide information so families and students can make an informed decision. My goal is really just to equip you with the information that you need to make the best decision, whatever is successful for your student and your family. So I would love to see all your students come to MCC, but that being said, I'm really just here to make sure you feel confident approaching this college process. I'm gonna hit the next one. So moving on, I wanted to talk about just kind of some of the opportunities that MCC can offer for students. So obviously we are a 2-year college and a majority of our students have been coming historically to start at MCC, get those classes done. If you're taking Comp 1 and that's required of your 4-year degree, it's going to be the same class at Illinois State versus MCC, just a very different cost. So again, we have transfer students coming in. We're also seeing a lot more career and technical education or CTE focused students. And that's where we're seeing really the trades come into play. So really great opportunities. And it doesn't even have to be 2 years there. As Mr. Mankey was detailing, we also offer certificates and stuff. So students don't have to spend 2 years just to earn the credentials or skills that they may need to be qualified for work. With that, we also offer career changing, so you can do short-term credentials, and it's good for students like myself. When I was going away to school or coming out of the high school, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to study, so I was able to explore at much less pressure than being away at a 4-year institution. So then looking at some other things that we are now offering. We have our University Center. This is a part of our Catalyst campus. So if any of you are familiar with the Challenger Center in Woodstock, where they had the NASA space exhibition that you could
go through for your school. This is now our Catalyst campus. So we house the University Center here. It's about 10 minutes from MCC's main campus, just right off the Woodstock Square. And the next slide here is going to detail some of the programs that we've offered. So the University Center is a way through these partnerships with Aurora, NIU, SIU, and Roosevelt to now offer four-year degrees within the county. So students that are pursuing any of the various degrees that are up on the screen, you will see that I like to put my degree under the bus. I have a communications degree. You won't necessarily see that being available at the University Center because it's not in demand, right? So we're looking at things like computer science, psychology, early childhood education, things that we need to fill the jobs in this county for. So if students go through these programs, start 2 years at MCC, do 2 years at the University Center, they would come out, let's say if they did accounting through SIU, they would come out with having been taught by SIU faculty, taken SIU courses, and have an SIU diploma. So employers would not know that they actually did not go down to Carbondale. So again, tuition rates are going to look a little different here. We're also offering master's options. So it's really just building on the ability for students to continue their education and working in the community. Looking at the big picture and timeline. So right now, and we'll get into, if you have any December grads, what that process might look like. But starting off for our May graduates, applying to MCC is going to be that first big step. So that's going to come around on September 8th. We're actually opening that fall 2027 application at that time. And as has been mentioned, students at McHenry High School have a waiver code for a free application. So we do have that $15 fee, but if they put in McHenry HS, uppercase, lowercase, does not matter, just McHenry HS, that will get them the free application. From there, students, again, submitting that FAFSA, getting that FAFSA information over to us. I like to mention as well, if a student completes the FAFSA application and enters MCC on that application, we will receive their aid, but we won't, if they haven't applied, we won't have a record for them. So in order for us to give that information about what that aid package looks like coming in here and how that can be applied at MCC, make sure your student is not only sending us the FAFSA information, but that they're getting that application in at that same time. Now, I highly, highly emphasize to make sure if your student is considering MCC or just getting that application in, because you never know what happens, highly recommend that if they have not applied to the college by winter break, make that the Christmas to-do list, because all you need to apply to MCC scholarships, so that application for fall 2027 awards will be open January. All you need to apply to that is going to be your MCC student login credentials, which will be given to students after the application. So apply for scholarships, and that can help determine a student's decision too, based on what kind of scholarships they're awarded out of school. So again, free application, apply to scholarships, no harm, no foul to see. Additionally, this I like to mention as well, this is a process that is very similar depending wherever your student goes to school. Having transferred after MCC, I went through basically this process again at my transfer school. So that to be said, most universities, colleges are going to require some sort of orientation process for students. Ours is two parts. First is the online portion. I call it the Netflix online orientation because it's about 20-30 minutes of videos that talk about the student process, explain resources here at the college that are available to them. And this can be something that's beneficial for support systems, parents, guardians, whoever might be assisting that student and wants a better understanding of how they're navigating the college process. From there, we will want final transcripts sent to us. And I highly recommend as well, we do want the final grades that are posted about the time of graduation in May, right? But we will want some transcript information on your student when they are completing the scholarship. And that is because, I will get into it, but there are also some merit-based scholarships on the table. So we do want those final transcripts, but make sure you're also getting us maybe your fall midterm transcripts. And again, they can go through school links for that. Lastly, placement testing. So if you're unfamiliar with placement, this is done at all colleges. The reason is math and English subjects we get placement in. I like to use the example. I could read and write all day, but I would not like to look at numbers. Some students might be the exact opposite. And due to those varying abilities that we see in those two subjects, we always place students to ensure that we're putting them in a level of that subject that will build upon their current base knowledge, but not push them too much where it's too tough of a class for them. So the goal with placement, if your student is required to take placement tests or anything like that, is really just to see where your student's at, not getting the hardest class, not getting the easiest class, but really a measure of where their knowledge is. Now, last but not least, registering for classes. I always like to mention the students that are ahead on this timeline do get the benefits, right? So if you complete online orientation, that will then unlock your ability for your student to register for in-person orientation. Now, this is a day over the summer where you would come to campus and actually sit with advising and register for your fall classes. So as you can imagine, if you come in May when we first start hosting in-person orientation, sky's the limit. You can build the best schedule for your fall semester that you want. When it comes down to August, we do have to have some tough conversations about students who might have jobs or other responsibilities in their schedule, and trying to fit classes that are left over available for them could be a little difficult. So I just recommend know how you learn best and stay ahead of that curve so you can plan a successful semester. Now, if we go to the next one, here are just some couple little things that I like to mention as well about that timeline. So dual credit students will have a record here at MCC for that earned credit that they did at McHenry High School. However, we do need them to still complete the application to MCC, because as a dual credit student right now, they're prohibited from actually registering for classes on their own and coming to campus here. They have to do everything through the high school. So again, have them log in and complete that application. Now, let's say your student is not intending to go to MCC. They will have, like I said, those dual credit transcripts on record here. So just make sure that if they are planning on going off to college at a 4-year or anywhere else, that they not only send their McHenry High School transcripts to that other institution, but that they request their dual credit transcripts from MCC as well. The high school transcript containing the dual credit information will not be enough. They will also need the MCC file. Additionally, like I was saying with the scholarships, all you need to apply is that MCC student login information. So just reiterating this here to emphasize that no harm, no foul, you get a free application to the college. And then based on what scholarships your student may earn, that can also help them make a decision about their next steps and where they end up for school. Now, back to placement. So again, this was required for both math and English subjects, and we do multiple measures when placing students. So we'll look at a couple of things. Obviously, if you've taken English Comp 1 through dual credit, that is going to suffice in placing you at a collegiate level of English, right? So that will help us. We'll also look at high school transcripts that are sent to us for any GPA in math and English. And depending on that, we might also want to look at SAT, ACT scores. If we get all of that information and we still aren't quite sure on where to put this student that would be best for them, we will email their student account a request to take a placement test. So again, whether your student's at MCC or not, just have them check that student email, because a lot of next steps will come there. I like to mention as well, placement tests are free, untimed, and can be retaken. So it's nothing to sweat about. Again, the goal is just to see where the student's at. If they've graduated high school, they've already gone through all that math, it should be nothing to worry about. It's just really to measure what they've learned at the high school. Now, placement's also done in world languages. So, for example, I took Spanish all throughout high school. I did not earn dual credit, so I was not able to be placed by that. However, because I wanted to continue Spanish studies at the college level, I did placement, right? I knew the basics, so I didn't need to start at Spanish 101, but I knew enough that maybe I could fall somewhere in there. So again, if your student has taken a language at the high school and has not taken dual credit in that language and continues to pursue those studies at the college level, please make sure that they're doing a world language placement test as well. Now, like I mentioned, online orientation again is really helpful for support systems, guardians, parents. Like I said, have been a student here at MCC. I work here. I watched online orientation and I learned quite a few things about the student process. So it really is a wealth of information. And then we get this question often, right? What does your student have to go through the orientation process? And yes, so this is for all students coming out of the high school who are coming to campus for the first time as a full-time student. And it's really just to acclimate them to the college and make them feel comfortable. Maybe come find their classes on campus and not feel so overwhelmed that first day. All right, so my favorite thing to talk about, scholarships. And Carla did a great job emphasizing that so much money is left on the table. So MCC offers scholarships for both the fall and spring semesters. So our fall application opens January through April. And please be aware, I think my next slide is for December grads, but please be aware if you are graduating in December, apply to MCC now, because on September 1st, we will open that spring scholarship. Now, our scholarship application is just one application. So students will fill that out and it will apply them to over 100 scholarships we have available. So I really like to emphasize that students should really spend a good amount of time. Don't just feel like, oh, it's one application, one done, easy peasy. It is easy peasy, but definitely use that, use all the resources that they have at the high school to look over, proofread, edit, and give corrections and feedback. So they're really applying with something that they're proud of. Additionally, I highly recommend, as you can see, the spring application closes October 7th. Do not apply on October 6th, especially if you think you might be eligible for some of our high impact scholarships, right? So these are actually only awarded in the fall. However, this you will be invited to complete after completing that first initial application that will send it out to over 100. So again, that first application needs to be in that initial scholarship application, and then the system will let the student know if they're eligible for high impact. Now, high impact is a full ride. We give about 21 full ride scholarships out each fall. And I like to put this into perspective that we have 14 in district high schools, right? So 21 divided by 14, there's going to be a couple kids coming out of Montgomery High School that do receive this full-time or this full ride scholarship. So I always just like to break that down to students to emphasize that they have the opportunity to earn this. A lot of students that have earned the high impact scholarship have all come back to us and said, I didn't think it would be me, right? Somebody encouraged me to apply and now look, here I am. So there is definitely just a lot of money left on the table. MCC also, if you go to our website and look at our scholarship page, we have local scholarships on there too, and some credible outside services to kind of search for scholarships that are credible and that we've kind of approved. So definitely do your research there, whether you come to MCC or not. Again, that is just a great resource. All right, so next we're looking for December. So if there are any December graduates out there, highly encourage you to apply to MCC now, because then you get your MCC email, right? And that is what you would need to then apply to the scholarship. We would want those transcripts sent over now so we can get an idea of placement, even though those are not final grades yet. We will have online orientation for those incoming December grads. So that will be sent to their MCC email. So be checking that. And then, of course, we'll want those final transcripts. Any placement testing can be done in early January before classes start. And then any other things that they need to plan out or work with advising, they're more than welcome to get all that done before classes start on January 19th this spring. All right, so real quick, just going over access and disability services. Highly recommend if your student has had an IEP, 504, or any other accommodations that have offered them support throughout the high school. or any of their education up until now, definitely get in touch with the Access and Disability Services office on whatever campus they end up. With our process, a student would first need to apply to the college, and then they're recommended to fill out the intake form. So if you see that bottom link on the screen there, that is a good one to go, and it goes over all those next steps for students to get started. From there, here's just some key MCC contacts. We find that it can be a little confusing to students in the beginning. Admissions, advising, it's all the same, right? However, admissions, we're really here to help with those initial steps and initial questions and help them troubleshoot, right? Financial aid, highly recommend, whether or not your student is going to MCC. If you are struggling with the FAFSA application, the alternative application, just navigating that, come in, talk to our financial aid office. We are the resource for the community. So again, students, anyone is welcome to come in and use them as a resource. And then of course, advising. So students are highly recommended to work with advising to make sure that they're meeting their goals, that they're choosing classes that are right for them, and that will get them to their graduation requirements. All right, so just a couple things for parents before we wrap up. Kind of like Nicole was saying, we really want to emphasize to students that this is their journey. You know, your parents are here to support you and encourage you through it, but really they need to take that ownership, right? This is about reaching their goals. So while we want to instill that self-advocacy for those students, it's also really helpful to have parents involved in keeping track of deadlines. An Excel spreadsheet, something like that is great, especially if they're applying to multiple colleges. I mean, continue attending these sessions. I know the financial aid session is coming up, so just keep staying plugged in, getting your questions answered, and you'll be able to come out feeling a lot less overwhelmed. And then there's my contact information if there are any questions. And then again, please, I am the main point of contact for McHenry High School, so there are no stupid questions, and please reach out if you need any support. Thank you.
All right, Peyton, thank you so much for being here. And for that, again, 45% of the class of 2026 told us they're going to MCC next. So they are an incredible partner, provide wonderful opportunities at a price that's hard to argue against for students. Again, we're going to pause just for a moment for the sake of our live viewers. Again, live viewers, you can ask us real-time questions literally right now. This is a live stream. And we will respond to you. So to give our live viewers one more chance to ask any questions they may have, I'm going to throw a question at both Ms. Bacigalupo and Ms. Flores. Ms. Bacigalupo, you'll go first, and then we'll do Ms. Flores second. The question is, what is just one piece of advice, one piece of feedback you could give to either seniors or parents and guardians right now?
I would say to use the resources available. That is my number one piece of advice. My parents did not go to college, so I went through this process without a lot of help and guidance. And my parents, you know, they tried, they went to all the meetings, they took the notes, but it's really all the resources I had available to me that got me through and got me to a college that I really loved and really enjoyed. And using my counselor so often was part of the reason I became a school counselor myself, because he showed me schools I wouldn't have known about if I hadn't met with him, and he helped me through that process a lot. And my family was supportive too, and just use those resources. They're there. Don't feel bad about asking questions, reaching out. We are here to help.
Excellent. Thank you. Ms. Flores.
Yeah, I was thinking about this one for a bit here. I would say, I mean, I think it will look a little different for everyone, but my advice is find what works for you from a being organized standpoint. And I think specifically, I know we've referenced so much information in this presentation alone. So I don't expect students or parents to have all of this memorized and know, like, feel like, oh, yeah, okay, perfect. Like, so just being organized from the sense, like whether it's a calendar and like maybe it's something on your phone or a paper calendar, agenda, whatever it is that works best for your senior, help them get organized, and just, you know, that way they can tackle this process with as much confidence as possible, and definitely do best to avoid procrastination. And I think, you know, timeline of where we're at now, they are in a really good spot if they haven't started yet, but are able to take that first step and just tackle a little bit at a time.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mrs. Flores. To our live viewers, this also should show up in the recorded version as well. I did just drop into the chat the link to our college and career guide, which is one of the two main resources that Ms. Bacigalupo mentioned earlier. It's really kind of a how-to for all sorts of post-secondary topics, how to apply to college, where to find apprenticeships, FAFSA, scholarships, student athlete questions. We got a lot there. I have not seen any more questions come in to our live chat here. So on behalf of my colleagues, both here at McHenry High School and at McHenry County College, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your partnership in supporting your students. And always remember to ask yourselves, what are you looking forward to?